Okay, good afternoon. Exciting week for us. Senior Day, always a special day, an opportunity for our seniors who've contributed so much to our program over the last really 1 to 5 years, depending on who you're speaking of. Get one last chance to play in High Point Solution Stadium in front of the home crowd against a really talented opponent in Maryland. Big Ten football game. I think Coach Loxley's done an excellent job of motivating that team and keeping them playing with great energy. They present a lot of issues on defense. They're giving up less than 4 yards a carry. They've got some really talented players on offense, starting with their running back, Brandon Ross, who's a really high-quality football player. Had a good game against us last year, and somebody we're going to have to work really hard to try to minimize his impact on the game. And they've got two of the best specialists in the country, and their kicker and their returner. Now, we don't know what the status of either guy is for the game. Their kicker has missed a few games here. We're not sure if he'll be available, and Will Likely is one of the most dangerous return guys in all of college football. But he left the last game, and we're not quite sure what his status is yet. But we're going to prepare as if both those guys are going to be playing against us. Questions?
Kyle, could you go to a bowl? Could you not go to a bowl? Will you do your normal senior last practice stuff, like carry the seniors off and all that this week?
Yeah, we don't ever carry the seniors off during the regular season.
So nothing.
Okay. It'll be a normal game week. We're going to be 1-0.
Will this senior day be any different for you just because this was kind of the class that obviously you came in with, a lot of these guys who are four-year guys, just being with them for their whole careers?
This senior class, most of these guys started when I was still an assistant coach. There's a couple, a guy like Leonte, he and I have been together now for 4 years. But I think every senior day is special for different reasons, and it's usually about the relationship with the different players. I remember seeing Keith Lumpkin as a sophomore at St. Peter's in Jersey City playing basketball and talking to Rich Hansen about him. So, I probably have a story like that about just about every one of them. But there's a couple in there that we've been together for 4 years, a guy like Leonte, a guy like Kyle Federico, who have done a really good job for us.
Kyle, on the depth chart, Josh Hicks is at running back. Is that your plan for this week? Could we see him on both sides?
It's the plan as of now, but we're still working through some of the injury report. I know I put one out today, but that's far from final, I would say. So, we'll get an update later today. We're working through the game plan. We'll see who's available, and then, we'll have to make some decisions, though, by the time we start meetings tomorrow morning.
Kyle, speaking of Coach Hansen, I talked to him last week, and he was telling me about a conversation you guys had about Keith, that 2010 senior class, where he said to you that he felt like of all the guys in that class, Keith probably had the highest upside just because, getting a guy of that size. I was wondering if you could just reflect a little bit on, the recruitment of Keith and, what he's given to you these last 4 or 5 years as far as realizing his potential.
Sure. Yeah, I remember the conversation, and it was really, when you talk about upside or potential, when you see a guy who's a legitimate 6'7", offensive tackle body who is a skilled athlete. If you ever watched him play basketball, you'd know right away how skilled an athlete he is. You just said to yourself, if this guy's in the right program, in the right weight program, he could really play at a high level in college. And to be a 3-year starter at left tackle, in my time here, we've only had 2 of those, Pedro Sosa and Keith Lumpkin, and both guys are really, really good football players. So Keith has done an excellent job. And it probably started his junior year of high school was really where he hit the weights and his body started to change and he started to look like a football player.
Coach, you have Kai Hester listed as questionable. If he can't go, would Najee Clayton then step in and start?
Well, those are some of the things we're working through. It could be Saquon Hampton is back there, Anthony Chaffee's back there, Andre Hunt is back there. So we've got a lot of guys back there. It'll just be a matter of putting the pieces in the best place to give us the best opportunity to be 1-0.
Coach, how big of a factor were Muller and Lumpkin in the progression of the younger offensive linemen to give you the confidence to start them?
I think Zach Heeman probably had the best quote on that. I don't know if it was after the game or on Monday. Somebody asked him about did those guys help, and he says, when you're in the middle of Keith Lumpkin and Chris Muller and all the starts those guys have had, they pull you along and they make sure you're going in the right direction, and it certainly looked that way. You gotta when you're in a situation like we were last week, where 2 of your starters are all of a sudden they're out and you're starting right guards now at center and you got 2 freshman guards playing in the game, you really got to rely on the guys who've been through the games before. Guys like Keith and Chris certainly are at the head of that list for us.
We've been told that the PSA that caused fans to boo for the Nebraska game, it will be on display. Are you concerned at all about how you're going to be received on Saturday?
It's not something that I've been consulted on. I think that PSA is a tremendous message. It's a message about not getting in the car. After you've been drinking. So I think that's really important. It's a really important message for everybody that's in the stadium, and it was not something I pursued. It was something that they asked me to be a part of, and when I heard what the message was, I was more than in favor of it.
Coach, just going back to when you're talking about Keith, and not only a guy of his size, but a guy of his athleticism. When we talk to you about joining the Big Ten, and do you talk about getting bigger players up front? That was one of the things you mentioned, was it's not just size, it's athleticism. How much of that is a model for what you want to see on your offensive line?
Yeah, it really is, and I'll give you the example. The example is Zach Heeman. What is the comparison? Well, you're talking about two guys that are both 6'7". Both guys were 1,000-point scorers in basketball, and both guys started to transform their bodies as they got closer to their senior year of high school to really start to look like football players. And we got to see, really, we're watching the end of Keith's career here at Rutgers, but I don't think the end of his career. And we're watching the beginning of Zach Heeman, so I think that's probably the best example I can give you.
Kyle, regards to Leonte, how do you think he's handled privately, a difficult senior year, not the one he expected?
Leonte's come to work every day with a lot of energy, and unfortunately he's been a little bit hampered with injuries and things like that. But I can only judge it on the way he comes to work every day, and I'm very pleased.
How about, obviously, it is senior day, so it's kind of a time to reflect. You've seen all the best. You've seen Sanu, you've seen Britt, you've seen Underwood. How good is what Leonte's been able to do? I think it's a touchdown every 4 catches for his career.
I think they're all unique. They've all got differences in their skill sets, but he's in the conversation with every one of them. He is right with that top group, whether it's a guy like Kenny Britt, a guy like Mohamed Sanu, et cetera. He goes right to the top of that list.
Kyle, what were your hopes or your plans with not practicing yesterday, and then are there any other schedule changes with this being the Thanksgiving class schedule and everything?
Just yesterday, I felt like we were best served to be in the meeting room. It's not something that's uncommon this late in the season, so we've done that before. Wednesday's a Friday class schedule. That gives us a little bit more flexibility, so we'll use that. We'll do the same things we always do on Wednesday. We'll just do them. We'll push the schedule back just a little bit, and then on Thanksgiving we'll practice early enough in the morning so that the guys that are local can go home and have Thanksgiving with their families. And a lot of times they take their teammates home with them, and we'll make sure that everybody has somewhere to go. And if somebody isn't back with one of the players or one of the coaches, I always have a place that they can go to for Thanksgiving as well.
The depth chart says Laviano to start at quarterback. Any chance Hayden, see some time at quarterback?
Chris is the starting quarterback.
I don't see Gleason listed as one of the seniors that's going to be honored. Could he come back next year?
He has another year of eligibility. There are certain guys that I still have to talk to this week about how we're going to handle that. Thank you.